Well, it's actually something that I wanted to do for a long time. Not necessarily be an entertainment lawyer, but when I was about 16 or 17, I really made up my mind that I wanted to be in the music business. And so that was right about when I went to college. So, probably like a lot of people, I did everything I could that was related to the music business. I did, started off really doing tech work, and setting up concerts for our college, I was on the tech staff there, so whenever bands would come play, someone obviously had to move the cases around and build the stage and hang the lighting trusses and all that, so I was doing that. And did that actually the whole time I was in college. That sort of branched out into working in a recording studio and being a second engineer for a while, because at one point I'd wanted to be a producer. And along the way I did kind of whatever I could. I managed a couple bands for a while, unsuccessfully. I wrote reviews for the local papers and our school paper and things like that, and just kind of whatever I could do, And ultimately, when I started getting towards the end of college, I was a media major, which is sort of like a combination of communications and art history and sort of the theory of film and all that. And I was pretty clever, I think, thinking I better figure out what I'm going to do here, because this degree is not going to get me very far. So I was thinking about what I would do, and I knew that the record business, or I'd heard at that point that the record business was run by lawyers and accountants. And so my thoughts were, well, this film thing's kind of fun. Maybe I'll go in graduate school for film, or maybe I'll get an MBA, or maybe I'll go to law school. So I picked up a book on business law over the holidays, and I was just reading through it, and I was going like, well, this is easy enough. I can do this. So that was sort of the moment when I said, okay, I'm going to law school. And funny enough, I think that actually had a tremendous advantage over the people I was going to school with, because when I went, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be, a music attorney. So I hit the ground running. And I was basically had gone in. We had an entertainment guru at our school at the time named Lon Sobel. And, first day of class, I was in there in his office saying, I want to be a music attorney. How does that work? And he said, well, you really shouldn't, you shouldn't think about that right now. You might change your mind. I said, no, I'm not going to change my mind. He goes, well, basically you go through the normal law school thing for a while, deal with your first year. It's a difficult year of adjustment. Then over the summer, get an internship, like a normal internship in a real firm, not even an entertainment-oriented one. And then, come back, do your second year, and for your second summer, work in a entertainment firm or record company or publishing company, whatever it was. And then he said, and then after that, you go out and you work for 3 to 5 years in like corporate law or something like that, and then lateral over into the entertainment practice. And I was like, no way. I mean, I looked pretty much the same then, and had long hair, and I had torn up jeans. I was wearing band shirts, and and I was just like, there's no way that I'm going to do that. So what I did was I went through the first semester of my law school, and when I got my results back from my tests, I was like, oh, okay, this is fine. Like I adjusted, did very well. And so in the beginning of the next year, or the beginning of the next calendar year, in the second semester, I started making cold calls to all the publishing companies. I was in LA, so there's a lot of opportunities there. The music publishers, record companies, whoever I could contact. And really, like over the course of a few hours, I ended up getting like 4 or 5 interviews. And one of the interviews was with Capitol Records. And I just got lucky. They had, when I called the woman, she was like, well, God, how'd you hear about this? We haven't even posted this yet. I said, I didn't hear about anything. I was just calling. And they had just gotten an internship approved. So I went in and I met her and, gave her my spiel, and she was like, wow, you're perfect. Let's, when can you start? And it was like Friday. I said, Monday's great. Let's go. So I started working for her. She was the assistant to the vice president, and just faxing and stuff like that, and filing stuff, and just really crappy work. And, after a month or so, I went into her boss, who was the vice president of the business affairs, and I said, Bob, I think you can get more out of me here. Like, I can do more than faxing. Why don't you, why don't you give me a shot? So he gives me this file, And he says, why don't you read this? Because it's a fairly clean file. It's a fairly new deal. You can see sort of how everything works and, you know, all that. So I was reading through the file and there was some stuff that really wasn't making sense to me, but I really tried to figure it out because I didn't just want to go in there and say, you know, help me, Bob. But I figured out that, you know, I really couldn't figure it out. And I was like, you know, this stuff is really confusing here. Can you explain this to me? And it ended up that I caught like 2 or 3 mistakes in the contract that they didn't make sense. And he's like, okay, from now on you work for me. So that was sort of the beginning of, you know, my legally type career, you know, the legal type career.